Welcome to video 1, CAS for matrices, or matrices using the CAS, whichever way you look at it. Now, I know we haven't used the CAS for a little bit. Shape and measurement didn't really touch base with much of the CAS. So I'll start at the beginning. We need a new document. Don't want to save a previous document. I add a calculator. So we've used the calculator before when we were talking about algebra and recursion. Now we need to use a button that we haven't used much. If you've needed to create fractions, you've had to use this button. Otherwise, I don't generally use it. I find shorthand methods. So it's the one just to the right of the number 9. It's got modular brackets with a little square in the middle of it, and it's got a parentheses with a fraction. As I said, it's just to the right of the number 9, and it's to the left of the book. So if I press that, I come up with fractions, indices, square roots, exponents, logs, etc., etc. I want this guy with the square brackets here. This is my 2 by 2 matrix. I've got a row matrix and I've got a column matrix as well. Plus I've got a 3 by 3, but this 3 by 3 I'll show you shortly is not just a 3 by 3, it's a whatever size by whatever size. The most common we're going to be using is the 2 by 2 matrix. So we're going to press that for starters today. And it comes up with 4 dotted squares. Now, I'm sitting on page 12 of our textbook, and I've got the example 12, 3, 18, 5. I'm adding the two of them together. So I'm going to show you how to actually put that in and calculate that plus a second matrix. So I would put in 12. To get to this next box here, I press the across button. Then I put in the number 3, which is my second matrix. Sorry, my second element within the matrix. And then I use these arrows back and forth to get down to that third position, which is A21. I'm putting the number 18, and then that right button again, and press number 5. Now you can either press any of these, or you can hit the tab button. As you can see, the tab button has just moved it to the outside of the matrix. I'm going to add a second matrix to this. So I go back to that little button there next to the book, and I choose a 2 by 2 matrix. Now the numbers in this matrix, or the elements, are 13, hit tab again, -9, remember to use this negative button, not the minus button, -9, tab again. Tab automatically takes you to the next or the subsequent element position. Whereas using arrows, you have to go back and forth a little bit. Tab and 22. Now, if I hit enter, I know that 12 and 13 equals 25. So if I hit enter, I'll see that in position A11, it's 25. Just checking, 3, take 9, it's -6. 18 plus 6 is 24, and 5 plus 22 is 27. Now, if I wanted to make or create a 3 by 2 matrix, I would press that button again, putting this 3 by 3 here. Now it tells me, it has a pop-up, sort of a pop-up box. Number of rows, 3, but this time I only want 2 columns. So I can change that up and down to however many columns I want. Hit OK, and it gives me a 3-row, 2-column matrix. Don't actually want that, I was just showing you how to create it. Let's delete that. If I wanted to input 2 row matrices, so we'll just call this 1 and 5. And I wanted to add, so long as they're the same size or the same order, I wanted to add a second matrix. I would put in, say the numbers 2, hit my tab button, and 7. Now I know that 1 plus 2 equals 3. and 5 plus 7 equals 12. So if I hit enter on that, I end up with 3, 12. And note that the matrix is still in the same order as the two that we've just added together. Now, if we were to subtract matrices, we would be doing exactly the same thing as this guy up here, except putting in a minus sign in between the two matrices. So I'm going to use the same numbers. Press that button, choose 2 by 2. You have to press it twice. It's temperamental. And I type in 12, tab 3, tab 18, tab 5, tab, and my cursor is back on the outside. You can see that red line there, the outside of my matrix. So I subtract that, and I enter a second matrix. So press that button, put in my matrix. Now, I didn't know about the different sizes and how to put them in, so I would do most of it by hand last year until one of my year 11s said, oh, actually, this is how you do it. Well, I learned something. Now, looking at these numbers, 12 take 13, I know is -1. So let's see if we get something similar to that. And we do. -1, so 12 take 13 is -1. 3 take -9 gives you 3 plus 9, which is 12, and so forth. So adding and subtracting matrices is very, very simple. What if, however, you had a matrix that you would be using frequently? So, for example, if you had 4 matrices and you wanted to add them together in different orders, you would have to store the function or store the matrix into the computer system. So this time we're going to use a 3 by 3 matrix. Now 3 by 3, I'm going to keep it as a 3 by 3 matrix. And I'm just going to give you a few different elements. 3 minus 5. Now if you're following along, I'm sitting on page 14 of our text, addition and subtraction and scalar multiplication of matrices. So I'm on the third element there. Keep tabbing through. (11, 6, and 17). I think I'm putting in the right numbers. 0, sorry, -2, 15, and 0. Okay, now if I hit tab again, I'm going to be using this matrix a few times. So instead of me having to then input it half a dozen times or copying and pasting, I'm going to assign a value to it. So I press my control button, so this is the blue button on your left-hand side, and then I press this VAR button, because across the top of it there in blue font is store. It's going to give me an arrow. So this means that this matrix becomes, I'm going to call it Q, the letter Q. So every time I type in Q, and I hit enter, every time I type in Q, it recognizes that this is the matrix that I want to use. That is until I either clear the document or clear all the assigned characters. So again, I'm going to just type the letter Q. I'm going to hit enter. And again, it gives me that 3 by 3 matrix. Now I'm going to pop a second matrix in here. I'm going to call him R. So I'm still working on page 14. And I'm going to use my number pad because it's a little bit quicker. And I have the elements 12, 2, 1, -3, 4, 7, 22, 14, and -7. And this time, I'm going to hit tab, so my cursor's back on the outside. I'm going to hit my control button, this blue button on the left, control, and then the store button. I'm going to call him R. So I now have 2 assigned matrices. If I hit the letter R and then enter, it gives me the matrix that I've stored in the system. Now, what if I wanted to add these together? I don't need to go back and type in matrix Q, then plus matrix R. I can now just go Q plus R, enter. And scrolling back up, I know that the first element was 3. So what have I got? I've got 3. There we go. 3 plus 12. Oops, didn't highlight the 1, but that's right. 3 plus 12 gives you 15. And then if I wanted to subtract one from the other, I could type in Q minus R and enter. And it would subtract R from Q. Now, what if I wanted Q times 2? So twice as many Qs. When we're talking scalar multiplication, we're talking about the number that's outside that matrix. Think about algebra. When you're talking algebra, you've got, say, the number 2 outside the bracket, and you've got A plus B inside the bracket. What you need to do is multiply that 2 by A, then the 2 by B. Matrices is no different. So if I want Q, I'm going to type in Q and show you what Q equals. Q. Then if I want 2 times Q, I would just type in 2 times Q. And this would multiply every element. So 3 times 2 gives you 6. Negative 5 times 2 gives you negative 10. So it's going to multiply every element within Q to create 2Q. What if I wanted 4Q? I would do exactly the same thing. I would just do 4 times Q and then hit enter. And if I wanted 2R, I would do the same again and just 2 times R or 2R. Because I've stored these matrices in the system or in the CAS, I don't have to continue typing them in again. I can just recall them I'm sorry guys. I can recall them based on the character or the letter that I've assigned. Now this 4 in front of the Q is actually our scalar, as is the 2 in front of the R. If you watched 7.2, the second video, you'll have been introduced to scalar multiplication. If I need to do a few calculations at once, for example, if I put in 4Q and I also wanted to then subtract 2R, I could do that. I don't need to type in 4Q equals minus 2Q equals. I type in the formula I want and I hit enter. I'm going to scroll back up here and just show you that 12 take away 24 gives you negative 12. So scalar multiplication is very straightforward. It's not confusing. And using the CAS for scalar multiplication and addition and subtraction all in one hit saves a lot of time. As I said in one of the other videos, you don't have to have a CAS for this, but it does save a lot of time. So the next question in your test somebody would turn around and go, now that you've found 4Q minus 2R, I want you to find 3Q, oops, sorry, I moved my cursor, plus 7R. I could sit there and multiply everything, or I can just type this into my CAS and suddenly get 93, negative 1, 37, etc. Using the CAS will save a lot of time when it comes to